Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Nasstar's Webcast Wednesday. Today we're going to talk about the art of IT outsourcing, and this is a part of our Nasstar Thought Leader Series. With me today, my name is Guy. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Nasstar, and with me today are our speakers, CEO of Nasstar Nigel Redwood and Nigel Powell, our guest journalist, technical writer at the Sunday Times, and commentator at Sky TV. Nigel Redwood, Nigel Powell, gentlemen, hello.
Good afternoon, Guy.
Today we're going to talk about the art of IT outsourcing here. Now, few quick questions, few quick points. We're going to be talking around the subject using the SWOT model, a SWOT analysis. We'll be talking about the strengths, the opportunities, the weaknesses, and the threats there. Let's begin by talking about, if you do have any questions, by the way, as we're going through the webinar, look for the Ask Question button. If you click that and type your question in as you think of them, we'll answer all the questions at the end of the presentation. Now, moving on to the beginning of our presentation, let's define IT outsourcing. Let's define what we're talking about, really. So, Nigel, I'm going to begin this and talk to you first of all, because I think Nigel Powell isn't quite with us still. Nigel, how would you define IT outsourcing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very large subject, Guy. I mean, for me, it's about removing non-revenue or non-fee earning activity from within your business, i.e., removing any cost that isn't associated with delivering value or value add to the organisation. So IT outsourcing, as with any outsourcing, is about handing over non-core business activities to experts, experts that focus daily on such an activity, so that it can give you a competitive edge over your competition who still try and do it internally.
Okay, how would we, if we had to talk about the kinds of activities if we had to define what elements of IT are being outsourced there, to put some context onto the conversation, Nigel, what would you say they are?
Well, if you look through our client base, Guy, we have a whole range of clients. Some clients will look for an end-to-end service, whereby we're delivering the actual physical compute on the desk, all of the local network, the wide area connectivity, then the hosting and delivery of all of their applications out of our data centers. And that really takes care of the delivery of the IT to the end user. But also many customers then want us to go up the value chain and also get involved in the actual business process and application consultancy and development of their ways of working. Because what's key with IT, 80% of it within any organization is the same as your competitor, and there's 20% of it that will really give you a differentiator. And the idea of outsourcing is that we can take care of the 80% and really facilitate you to focus on that 20% that will give you the differentiator. So it really can be an end-to-end outsource, or some clients choose very much just to outsource a specific element. So they might have all of the local infrastructure covered, but they need all of their data and their applications securing centrally in data centers and delivering back to them and managed. So there is a range of services that people can outsource where IT is involved.
Just to touch on the main key drivers of why people are outsourcing, the one that I hear the most here, Nigel, is I just don't want to manage it. It's not my business. As increasingly as IT becomes a core function, it becomes the business. You could be in textiles, you could be in legal services or financial services, but increasingly, IT as a business is everything. And it's becoming a lot more common, for people to say, I just don't want to manage it.
It is becoming more complex, but at the same time, it's becoming more commodity as well, and which is giving the consumer or the business many more opportunities and things to take advantage of. For me, I mean, where we've specialised over the years is actually focusing on specific vertical markets. And what you find in each vertical sector, there'll be different drivers. So if you take the legal sector, for example, there could well be regulatory pressures and drivers that compel a practice to look to outsource, because delivering an in-house IT solution to the SRA requirements in terms of continuity and disaster recovery can be very onerous on an in-house IT department and expensive. Same with any regulated sector, really. But there can be also compelling events. So, downtime, loss of key personnel. We've had clients that have come to us because, they've had an IT manager for, let's say, 15 years, and he wants to retire or move on, and, they can't see a way forward without that person. So loss of key personnel is often a driver. Security breaches, the need and the worry over cyber security continues to be a driver for a reason that people outsource, because to keep data safe and secure in this day and age is a continual battle that never stops, and to keep abreast of all of the security requirements from an in-house perspective it is very difficult. Other reasons to adopt outsourcing, it could be business strategy. For example, if you've got a firm that's on a M&A strategy, then having IT outsourced or hosted centrally can really facilitate that mergers and acquisitions strategy by bringing your new business on very quickly. And efficiency, the life cycle of your IT hardware, internal IT department may be struggling to keep abreast with the business needs and things like that. So there's all kinds of compelling drivers to move to outsourcing.
It's I guess it really depends on what's important to you in the business, what elements of the technology is relevant to the business you need to retain in-house, and what you can just get rid of, what you don't need to manage. Lots of different drivers there.
On the other side, threats. Obviously there are things to be cautious about in terms of outsourcing. From your experience, what are the kind of things that people should think about in terms of avoiding bad things happening?
Yeah, I guess with any SWOT analysis, the opposite to your opportunity is your threat, isn't it? So, you asked me the question about how important is it choosing the right partner. The biggest threat in outsourcing is when you choose the wrong partner, when you don't do the due diligence and you choose a partner that actually isn't aligned and can't facilitate your business strategy and growth. And so that is almost I would say that's the single biggest threat to the outsourcing model, is choosing the wrong partner.
Security is obviously an issue if you choose badly, I assume, without doing your due diligence, as you say.
Yeah, well, some people say security is a weakness or a threat of an outsourced model or hosting model, and I disagree with that. I would say security is a threat for business as a whole. You only have to look at the announcement yesterday from the government that they're investing £1.9 billion in cyber security to try and secure our cyberspace in the UK. So certainly security is not a threat to outsourcing or to hosting or to managed services. Security is just a threat to our economy in total. What I would say, actually, if you choose the right outsourcing partner, then your security will be enhanced. If they're doing all the right processes, they're investing in the right areas, then they're going to be delivering a solution that is much more secure than you would be able to afford to do it in-house. So yes, it's a threat, but it's not a threat that's isolated to the outsourcing industry.
This implies really that you should, or anybody considering outsourcing should really spend a significant amount of time evaluating the SLA and everything that goes around that to ensure that it fits their needs.
Yeah, and the SLA is important, actually, and we've seen this over the years, where actually you'll engage with a partner. When I say partner, I mean a client, and the SLA actually doesn't reflect what the client needs or what the end users need from their IT service. And so for me, a big threat when you're outsourcing is signing up to an SLA that actually doesn't reflect what you need. And a lot of the time, you actually don't know what you need.
That makes it easy.
And if you don't know what you need, and that's again where consultants can come into play, because if you choose a consultant that knows your sector well, then again, they'll know what to look out for an SLA. For me, SLAs need to be outcome based as well as uptime and as well as reaction time based. It needs to be focused on the outcome for the end user as much as a technical SLA in reality.
Is this something that you can sort of write into the contract? I mean, it's possible to...
Yeah, absolutely you can. And again, to hark back to the industry specialism, if you've got a partner that knows your industry, then they'll be able to define outcomes that are very applicable to your end users. And you actually shouldn't be worried about whether your compute power or whether this server is available for X amount of time. What you need to worry about is, can your fee earner access the system and earn fees, and actually what happens behind the scenes to enable that to happen from an SLA perspective. You don't need to worry about. The outcome is that the end user can log on within X number of seconds and they can be working within a certain criteria, and that's where I think SLA should focus.
It's all very nice to hear. I mean, you're obviously the CEO of one of the most successful IT outsourcing companies around. You would be bullish and positive about the model, but it's obvious that there are instances where outsourcing is simply not relevant or not suitable. Can you think of any sort of particular cases where that's a true fact?
Yeah, it's not right for all companies. There's no doubt about that. It's not right for all people, and there could be any number of reasons. It might be down to the way a business needs to work, the type of applications they need to run. It might be down to perhaps regulation requirements as well. So it isn't right for all companies and all people, and it goes back to choosing the right partner. We wouldn't engage with a partner if we don't think we can give them the support they need. And so it is about doing due diligence in both directions actually. So yeah, it's not always right for every company.
I mean, cheaper is not always better. Sorry.
I just wanted to jump in and give a little bit of an answer there too. The only companies I don't really see outsourcing either, Nigel Powell, are high security companies, Ministry of Defence, intelligence agencies, those with such a highly secure requirement that it's never ever going to trust anyone else to host their stuff, to outsource any elements of it.
Yeah.
There's a whole chunk of the country that is in that kind of boat too. So security is a consideration.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I could actually disagree and give you some examples there. There's ILE accredited platforms that out there that the government have outsourced to. So, yeah, I think there's instances where that isn't always the case.
I'm thinking in the back of my head about a particularly very large naval force who had a bit of a disaster with an outsourcing project many decades ago, but I think we'll skip quickly across over that and move on. I think a lot of people think that their particular business model, is simply not suitable for outsourcing because they need much more control than anybody else. It's imperative for them that they have absolute microcontrol of every aspect of their process.
Yeah, and again, I would naturally disagree with that, because you've got to look at when you're delivering and you're defining a business strategy. If you've got absolute nth control over every part of your business, from an entrepreneurial perspective, you'll never have the time to actually enable growth and delegate responsibilities that are needed to really drive growth. So, from a loss of control perspective, what you need to do is release control to people that can do it better than you. And as long as you've released control to people that can do it better than you, then it's not a threat or a weakness. If you release control to the wrong partner, then absolutely. So again, it just comes back to what we've been saying all the way through around due diligence, that release control to the right people, and you can then focus on growing your business. And with any entrepreneur, that's the hardest thing to do. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, no entrepreneur likes to see control of anything, as far as I remember. Of course, that leads on to the fact that cheap is can be a false promise. Of course, cutting costs or attempting to achieve the efficiency and the trust with a cheap contract is not necessarily the best way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If a contract is too cheap, or if it seems too good to be true, then it is too good to be true, because the partner that you choose won't be able to invest in the service and the people and the technology to be able to deliver it back to you. And just move away from cheapness and look at value. What value can it bring, and what business strategic aims can it tick and help you deliver? And actually then it pays for itself.
Right.
I guess a huge part of that too, Nigel R, is the idea that good customer support teams, UK-based, English native speaking support teams cost money. And if you really want to receive a decent level of support, then that never is going to be something that's cheap. To properly support somebody, to properly support a customer, their users, it's something that you have to pay for. You usually pay for what you get when it comes to support. And it's something we see a lot of companies scrimp on, and it's something we don't. We're hot on.
And you won't always get it right. Sometimes when you go into a partnership with a client, you won't get it right first time in terms of how you support the users, in terms of the knowledge base, in terms of what you think is right. And the key thing is to be able to reinvest and go again, and redesign how you support. So, it's not all rosy and it's not all right first time, but if the value proposition is right on both ends, then you can continually invest until you get it right and as quickly as possible.
I'd like to ask one sort of question as we get close to the end. How do you prepare or plan, or I assume one does, for exiting an outsourcing project elegantly? It seems to me that with that level of integration, there are potential pitfalls, in doing it properly, so that things don't completely break down.
Yeah, so again, that's where your contractual obligations are important, in terms of you can define an exit plan. It's almost signing like a prenuptial agreement. You know how you're going to have an elegant divorce from one another. I think very, very rarely do you, when you deliver the service in a correct manner, do you get into that position. But if you've got that all planned out and defined at the start of the agreement, then that's key. At the end of the day, the client is 100% ownership of all of their data and their applications, and any outsourcer would be naive not to make a migration easy, because the minute you be obstructive in any client exiting your service, with social media and certainly if you specialize in vertical markets, that message can get around very quickly. And so again, it's back to doing your due diligence. Take references from current customers and exited customers if necessary. But yeah, defining your exit plan is equally important for me.
I'm assuming this is.
Sorry, I was just going to add to that as well by saying, typically, once an organization makes the decision to outsource their IT, that's not a decision that changes easily. The reason that organizations usually seek to come out of an outsourcing agreement is because either their relationship's soured, or they're just not being given the service that they need. Because the service you need now might not be the same service you need in 10 years' time. So somewhere along that path, the service provider has to adapt to your changing service requirements.
And that's where the right partner comes into play, isn't it? That, what very, very rarely actually, on day one of any relationship, by, let's say, year 10, are you delivering the same thing? And the right provider will evolve the solution as it goes by. Take an industry specific, for example, take the legal sector. You'll have trends in that sector that really drive change. Let's take the risk around mail being intercepting and bank details being intercepted and changed and money disappearing. As a result, you've got to bring in new products. You've got to bring an easy man encryption product that fee earners and lawyers can use. And so, as long as the partner knows the sector is responding to changes and requirements, then yeah, you're always going to be delivering something different at the end by the end of the contract. There's no doubt about it.
I suppose I was thinking really about things like startups, where your difference is hopefully as the startup scales, their needs will change or could change such that they would think about embedding an elegant exit so that they could take it in-house if necessary. But I know I appreciate if it's going well, then there might be no reason to do that.
Yeah.
I think the economics work at either scale, though, Nigel P. A small startup makes the decision for financial reasons. Hey, it's cheaper to let somebody else host and manage all of this IT complexity. It's still the same choice they make when they've grown to 100 employees. They're focused on their core business than never before. And they still have to have this IT complexity managed and serviced for them. It's still the same kind of decision. Do we really want to spend that CapEx? Do we really want to spend that OpEx? And the answer typically is, once the decision's been made to outsource, typically organizations don't change it. It's up to the provider to make sure they're changing according to the changing needs and requirements of the customer. And they're ahead of what the customer needs, being a good partner, Nigel says. We've got a few questions, by the way, gentlemen. Just looking at them, I get the impression we have a few legal gentlemen in the group here. You say you've got experience in the legal sector. What is the benefit of this to your clients on a day-to-day basis, Nigel Redwood?
What's the benefit of the experience? It's back to knowing what's important to the client. When they phone up and they've got a problem with digital dictation, it's about straight away knowing why and how they use digital dictation. Or let's say from a strategic perspective, your case management, you've had your case management for many years. You can talk to your business relationship manager about what the trends in the industry are and where people are going with case management and CRM and things like that. So it's about the end user experience but also the strategic experience. That if you know the sector, you can have the strategic conversations with the stakeholders, and you can have proper support for the end users. Yeah. And then finally, it's a community. We've got, I think we've got many law firms. I think we've got 10 law firms over 100 users. We've got 5 over 200 users. We've got, I think, about 40 law firms in total. And actually, they've developed a community between them. And our stakeholders forum, they will have, we meet with all of our clients on an annual basis over 2 days. And you'll see that the legal customers get together and they learn from one another and they bounce ideas off one another. So it's about being part of a community as well as anything else.
You answered the next question too, actually. What sort of size legal clients do you work with? Is there a size of firm that works best for your solution?
So on that front, we've got small startup legal firms that have broken away. So our smallest legal client is about 10 fee earners. All the way through to we've got clients in the top 50 with 300 to 400 users. So there's a good breadth and depth of legal clients.
I guess that, the answer to that question is how long is a piece of string, right? We adapt the service, the spec to suit the client and their requirements, the number of users they have. Difficult question to answer, but I think you did. The last one deviates from the topic of legal IT onto security. We're all hearing a lot in the news about cybercrime. We certainly are. What are you doing to protect your clients?
It's a continual threat, if I'm honest, and a continual process. So we have a three-pronged attack. We have a control and compliance manager, which is focused on security. He works with a dedicated ethical hacker internally, an internal employed ethical hacker that will look at our customer systems, will look at their web portals, will look at the systems they use and try and hack into them, and where we can hack in and find weaknesses, we'll work with the client to then address it. We're also taking clients through a cyber essentials program, because we can do what we need to do in order to be able to secure the servers, but actually 80% of all cyber activities and cyber crime is preventable through people and process. So that means that it doesn't matter how good and up to date your servers are, if your people and your policies and your processes aren't good, then you're going to have weaknesses. So we actually work with our clients now to take them through cyber essentials. So all of their staff go through cyber awareness, all of their local IT infrastructure, the phones, the PCs, everything are all audited and managed, and so that's a big area where we come out of just the area of looking after the key systems and we work locally. The other and final part we do around cyber security is we work with a partner called Phalanx, who specialise in cyber crime, and they're a big influence in terms of the defence mechanisms that we deploy, and then also we are part of the cyber crime information sharing program, which is called CISP, and so we get a lot of warnings from that program in terms of the threats within the region and within the UK, and more widespread than that, so we can take proactive steps when we see threats that other people are suffering. So the simple answer is it's a continual agitation for improvement on security. We will never ever be 100% secure, and no IT provider outsourcer can ever say they can be. But what you've got to do is be always vigilant, both at a hosting level, but also with the end users.
Makes sense. Nigel, do you have any Nigel P? Do you have any questions surrounding anything we talked about today you wanted to cover before we finish off?
I was fascinated to hear about the legal, having come from a legal background, the legal specialization. Are there any particularly challenging aspects about the legal sector that other sectors don't have in terms of IT?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's outcomes that are defined by the SRA, by the Sisters Regulation Authority, that you have to bear in mind when you're designing the technical solution. So, delivering IT for a recruitment firm, you have to take different steps to delivering IT for a legal firm, with the SRA requirements in mind. And then you've got the specific requirements of the end users, the way that they track time, the way that they'll use extensive technologies around printing, the way that they'll use extensive integration between client portals and case management systems and things like that. What you typically find with a law firm is that they have a lot of applications that are all integrated in many different ways, and so I think law firms are often much more complex to support and deliver than other verticals that we specialise in.
You're talking about legacy systems and things from the past.
Yeah, legacy, but also new. So I'll give you an example. There's a great product out there at the moment called Recoup, which tracks time. That's a new application, but has a lot of complexities around hosting it and being able to deliver it. So, as the legal sector is under a lot of pressure to drive efficiencies and drive down cost and up on automation, so the requirement of IT goes up as a result. So yes, legacy applications, but also new applications are a continual demand.
Thank you.
And I guess that, gentlemen, brings us to the end of our presentation. Let me just double check there are no more questions. No. At this point, I'd like to jump in and make a quick word from our sponsor. Today's webcast is sponsored by Nastarian, a digitally native publication focused on opinion, analysis, and insight. If you're interested in reading fresh news and knowledge around what you do, the IT in your business, head over to our blog, blog.nastar.com. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking part in this conversation, and thank you for watching. If anybody does have any further questions, call us or reach out to us by email. And Nigel R, thank you so much. Good conversation.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks, Nigel. And thanks to all the attendees as well today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye, guys.
Goodbye.